The unlikely meeting, the floating Cityship, was a marvel of galactic engineering. Drifting high above the atmosphere of a distant, unnamed world, it housed both alien and human civilizations under one vast, gleaming dome. The city itself was a blend of sleek alien architecture and more humble human structures. But there was an underlying tension between the two species. The humans, though increasingly part of the galactic community, were still considered outsiders by many of the alien races that resided within the city's borders. Inside the massive metallic walls of the Cityship, the alien delegates were gathered in a grand meeting hall. Their eyes, glowing with ancient wisdom, flickered with suspicion as they waited for the arrival of the human representatives. The meeting was to discuss the future of humanity's place within the Galactic Alliance, a place that many of the alien species still felt humans had not earned. The humans, on the other hand, stood outside the meeting room, exchanging quiet words of concern. Commander Aidan Moore, a leader in the human delegation, stood at the front, ready to enter. He was a tall man, his short, dark hair barely showing any sign of the sleepless nights spent preparing for this day. Captain Leia Carter, his second-in-command, stood by his side. Her eyes scanned the room ahead, her fingers tapping nervously on the metallic surface of the walls. "You sure we're ready for this, Aidan?" Leia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Aidan looked at her, his face serious but calm. "We don't have a choice. We either convince them we belong here, or we risk being pushed back to the outskirts of the galaxy, ignored and forgotten." Leia nodded, her eyes narrowing in thought. The humans had come a long way from being considered mere survivors on a primitive planet to being a rising force in the galaxy. But it was a fragile peace. They were still seen as inferior by many, their culture viewed with curiosity and suspicion. Aidan gave one last nod, and they both walked into the room. The alien leaders, already seated, watched the humans approach. Commander Moore took the lead, stepping up to the round table that served as the centerpiece of the meeting space. His presence was confident but cautious as he exchanged glances with the various alien dignitaries seated across from him. At the far end of the table sat Archon Zelthar, leader of the Zelvian species, known for their ancient intellect and telepathic abilities. His pale skin shimmered under the lights, and his 3 golden eyes blinked slowly as he studied the humans before him. "Commander Moore, welcome." Zalthar's voice resonated in their minds rather than spoken aloud. His telepathic abilities made him a powerful force in the Galactic Council. "We have been waiting for you." Aidan stepped forward, his gaze locked with Zelthar's. "We're here to discuss humanity's future within the Alliance. We've earned the right to stand among you, and we intend to prove it." Leia stood beside him, her stance steady, but inside, she couldn't help but feel the unease in the room. The alien delegates were more than just quiet, they were watching, calculating. This meeting would decide whether humanity would become a valued partner in the galaxy, or be treated as a footnote in a larger story. Zalthar's eyes glimmered. "Prove it." The telepathic voice was sharp, almost amused. "Humanity is new to the galactic stage, young compared to the great empires that have risen and fallen in the stars. Tell me, Commander, what is it that you believe humans can offer? That will convince us you belong in our collective." Aidan took a deep breath, steadying himself. "We've faced impossible odds and survived. We adapt and innovate, and when the galaxy doubted us, we found a way to prove ourselves." His words were measured but filled with a quiet confidence. "We didn't start as part of your alliance, but we've earned our place in the galaxy. We can do more than survive, we can thrive. There was a momentary silence as the alien leaders processed his words. The Zelvian leader's eyes shifted slightly, and the Taurans, a massive insectoid species, exchanged looks. They had never truly seen humanity as anything more than a passing species, useful in small ways, but not capable of much in the grand scheme of the galaxy. At the opposite end of the table, Governor Valexis of the Navarians, a race known for their control over vast energy fields, narrowed her eyes. Humanity's survival is admirable, but survival alone does not grant you a place at this table, she said, her voice deep and laced with condescension. What makes you think you can match the Zelvians or the Navarians? Our species have been shaping the galaxy for millennia. Aiden didn't flinch. We don't need to match anyone. We need to contribute. Humanity is ready to offer technology, creativity, and adaptation, things that the galaxy has never seen. Valexis scoffed. Creativity. You think you have something to offer that could match our progress? Yes, Aiden said firmly. We've developed energy manipulation systems that rival the best technology you have. Humans aren't just survivors. We're builders, and we've learned, through trial and error, that survival isn't enough. We need to thrive, not just exist. The room shifted. The alien leaders, for the first time, seemed unsure. The Zelvians had long ruled the scientific community with their advanced intelligence, and the Taurans held unmatched strength. But humans weren't just capable, they were driven. Zalthar finally spoke again, his voice carrying a new weight. Perhaps there is something to humanity's resolve. The galaxy is changing, and perhaps we have been too dismissive of your species. Leah exchanged a look with Aiden, the tension palpable in the air. They had come to prove humanity's worth, but this meeting was just the beginning. They had to show that humans could collaborate, not just survive. But even as the conversation seemed to shift in their favor, Aiden knew that this was only the first small victory. The true test would come when humanity had to face what lay beyond these conference halls, the unseen challenges, the unseen enemies lurking in the far reaches of space, asterisk tensions and alliances after the unexpected breakthrough at the meeting. A tense silence loomed over the floating city ship. The alien delegates had heard what humanity had to offer, but they were still uncertain whether to fully embrace Earth's future within the Galactic Alliance. It wasn't that they doubted humanity's capabilities, but they didn't want to appear weak or naive to the rest of the galaxy. General Aiden Moore and Captain Leia Carter were left with an uneasy feeling. While the meeting had gone better than expected, humanity's standing in the galactic community was still precarious. Aiden could see that the Zelvian leader, Zalthar, was still watching humanity with a cynical eye, as if unsure whether this was all a fluke. And the Navarians, their cold, calculating nature made it clear that they would never fully trust the humans until they had something to prove. The floating city ship, a massive structure floating within the fabric of deep space, seemed to have a life of its own. It housed multiple alien species, and while it was meant to be a symbol of unity, it also was a place of clashing ideals and political intrigue. As humanity navigated these choppy waters, Aiden knew that the true challenge had only just begun. The humans had shown their worth, but would the galaxy accept them? Or would the humans remain forever on the outside? In the alien meeting hall, the tensions were palpable as the alien leaders continued their discussions in private. They had not yet come to an agreement on humanity's position in the Alliance, but it was clear that their unease was growing. Asterisk. Still leaning on the edge of his towering seat, finally spoke. I understand the humans' resilience, but what they do not understand is the balance of power that holds the galaxy together. We, the Zelvians, have been the stabilizing force for millennia. We maintain peace by preserving the status quo. And now this. This species that has barely even crossed the stars wants to be a part of our galactic future. The Tauran representative, a tall, insectoid creature with an exoskeleton glowing in the dim light, let out a low hiss. The humans have proven their resourcefulness, but they are unpredictable. And unpredictable means dangerous. If they cannot be controlled, we risk their ambitions spreading like wildfire. But what if they could be controlled? The Navarian governor, Valexis, a cold and calculating figure, spoke up. What if humanity could offer us something the galaxy hasn't seen? They are small, yes, but they have a fire in them, something the galaxy's oldest species have long since lost. Zalthar's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing. But what will this fire lead to, Governor? More wars, more unchecked destruction. Humanity can be a tool, but they must know their place. Valexis, not easily deterred, leaned forward. What if their place isn't as small as we've imagined? What if humanity has the potential to be more than just another piece of the puzzle? Why must we fear their rise? Zalthar hesitated, then nodded slightly. You may be right, but we cannot allow them to take over. Back in the human section of the Cityship, General Moore and Captain Carter discussed the implications of the meeting. They knew that humanity's presence was still a double-edged sword. Some alien species saw their intelligence, adaptability, and resilience as a threat. Others saw potential. But the truth was, humans had no choice but to take this risk. The galaxy was vast, and Earth could no longer remain a quiet, isolated species on the fringe of the cosmos. As General Moore stood at the viewport looking out at the glittering stars, a quiet voice broke his concentration. General, we need to move quickly. It was Professor Ryle, the Zeridian, who had been working with humanity's scientific teams. Ryle's glowing blue skin shimmered in the dim light as he stepped toward Moore. We have intercepted a message, Ryle continued. It's from Zalthar. He's proposing an alliance, but it comes with conditions. Aidan turned toward him, his brow furrowed. Conditions. Ryle nodded gravely. The Zelvians will accept humanity into the galactic fold, but only if we agree to share our newest technologies. They believe that humanity's advancements will give them the edge over other galactic species. However, it's clear they still see you as inferior. They want to control the narrative. Of course they do, Aidan muttered under his breath. So it's not a partnership, it's a picking of sides. Laia, who had been listening closely, spoke up. What are our options? Ryle hesitated. The Navarians may offer a better deal, but we don't know if they can be trusted. The Taurans have their own interests, and the Zelvians still have an air of dominance. Humanity may have to choose carefully. Meanwhile, Admiral Zarish of the Kylorian fleet, watching the human delegation from afar, made his own plans. The humans' recent rise in the galactic scene wasn't just a curiosity, it was a threat. Kylorian culture had long been based on strength, but the humans were showing an unexpected resilience. Zarish was calculating, his thoughts focused on the future. The humans must be handled, Zarish murmured to himself. We can't allow them to gain power unchecked. But Zarish wasn't immediately planning a war. No, he was watching and waiting. The Kylorians would study humanity carefully, bide their time. and strike when it would give them the greatest advantage. Asterisk, the hidden enemy. The room was dimly lit. The hum of the Cityship's engines, the only sound echoing in the background. Humanity had finally gained a foothold among the stars, yet the floating Cityship, which once represented hope for unity, now felt more like a cage. General Aidan Moore sat in front of a holographic map, his eyes scanning the fleet movements. His mind kept drifting to the new alien alliances that had opened up for humanity, each offer laced with its own strings, its own conditions. Humanity was at a crossroads. Captain Leah Carter entered, her face marked with fatigue. "Any updates on the alien response?" General Aidan turned to her, his expression weary. "We're being pulled in every direction, Leah. The Zelvians want us to share our technology. The Navarians want a military alliance. And the Taurans, they just want to control everything. It's like we're a chess piece, and everyone wants to play with us." Leah's brow furrowed as she looked at the map. "And the Colossals?" she asked cautiously, knowing the answer. "They're watching." Aidan's voice was a low murmur, almost like a warning. "I've had reports from General Vasquez that their fleet is spreading out near the galactic edge. They're readying something, but they haven't made a move yet, and frankly, I'm not sure we can trust that." Back in the alien chambers, Zelthar, the leader of the Zelvians, stared at the data from the recent meeting, still processing everything humanity had said. His mind was racing with thoughts of cooperation, but also of control. The humans had proven themselves to be resilient, but were they truly ready to be trusted on a galactic scale? Were they just another empire in the making, or were they something else entirely? "What do you think of the humans, Zelthar?" asked Velexis, the Navarian governor. She stood by his side, her posture formal and regal. "They show strength, but they also show recklessness. The Taurans want them for their military might, but the Zelvians want to ensure they are never more than tools." Zalthar's expression softened for a moment, his three glowing eyes narrowing. "They have fire. It cannot be ignored. But we must be careful. They could be a valuable ally, but only if we shape them correctly." Velexis gave a knowing nod. "And if they do not listen, then we will turn them into allies by force." Zalthar replied coldly. "The galaxy needs order, and humanity's ambition could easily tip the balance." As the alien leaders continued to plot, the human delegation faced challenges of its own. Aidan Moore was pacing in his quarters, reviewing data on the Kylorian fleet, when Leah Carter walked in, holding a secure message from the Kylorian embassy. "I'm assuming it's not good news?" Aidan asked, his voice thick with suspicion. "No," Leah said, her eyes scanning the message. "It's a warning. The Kylorians say they will not allow humanity to disrupt the galactic order. If we continue to advance as we are, they will act." Aidan stopped pacing and turned to Leah. "What does that even mean?" "The Kylorians are threatening us openly." Leah nodded, her face grave. "They're stirring something up. We've already seen their military activity along the outer rim. They're preparing for something, but they haven't shown their cards yet." Aidan's hands clenched into fists. "Then we can't just sit here waiting. We need to prove that humanity can stand its ground. We're not just going to be bullied by the Kylorians or anyone else. We have something to offer this galaxy. We will not be silenced." At that moment, a secret transmission buzzed through the command center. It was from Professor Rael, the Zeridian scientist who had been collaborating with humanity's tech teams. "General Moore," Rial said urgently through the comms, "you need to see this." Aidan leaned forward, his attention immediately captured. "What is it?" Rial's voice became more serious. We've been tracking anomalies in the alien techs, specifically from the Zelvian fleet. There's something odd going on with their energy fields. It's like they're using a hidden frequency to cloak certain sections of their ships. We believe they're hiding something, and it's related to a galactic weapon. Aiden's heart skipped a beat. A weapon. Something that could be a threat to Earth. Ryle hesitated, then answered, yes. We've been gathering intel, and we suspect it's connected to a device capable of galactic-scale destruction. The room fell silent. A weapon powerful enough to threaten all of humanity was the last thing Aiden Moore wanted to hear. Earth was already fighting just to secure its place in the galaxy to be respected. A weapon like this could change everything. If the Zelvians had it, there was no telling what they would do with such power. We have to find out everything about this weapon. And fast, Aiden said, his voice sharp and commanding. But how do we even begin? Leah asked, a deep concern. In her voice, the Zelvian fleet is massive. We're still trying to navigate the political web of the galaxy, and now this. Aiden turned to her, his face unwavering. We're humans. We'll find a way. We always do. The next day, the human fleet set off on a mission to track the Zelvian fleet, using every advantage they could, from their advanced stealth technology to their resourceful tactics. But they weren't the only ones looking for answers. At the same time, Admiral Zaresh and his Kylorian fleet were gathering, preparing for the next stage in their galactic conquest. The Kylorians, once the undisputed rulers of space, were now facing a galaxy in flux, and they weren't sure how much longer they could hold the title of the strongest species. The galaxy's secrets. The human fleet was now in motion, drifting through the vast expanse of space, each vessel cloaked by advanced stealth technology, moving like shadows among the stars. General Aiden Moore sat quietly at the helm of his ship, staring at the distant stars outside the window. The weight of the mission bore heavily on him, but it wasn't just the alien weapon that weighed on his mind. Humanity had stumbled into a web of secrets, and each turn seemed to reveal a darker truth about the galaxy and its most powerful species. As Commander Moore strategized their next moves, his thoughts were interrupted by the sharp chime of an incoming message. It was from Professor Rael. Aiden, you need to see this. The Zeridian's voice crackled through the comms. We've uncovered something crucial about the Zelvian fleet, and it's more dangerous than we thought. Back on the floating Cityship, the Zelvian leaders were preparing to move forward with their hidden plan. Zalthar, the Zelvian elder, had spent countless hours reviewing the humans' actions, their technological innovations, and their growing military presence. There was something about their unpredictability that bothered him. Humans, Zalthar murmured, his thoughts filled with both admiration and distrust. Their determination to rise above their origins is something I've never seen before. His second-in-command, a Zelvian strategist named Kara, stood by his side, her expression unreadable. What are you planning, Zalthar? You've been watching them closely. You know that they won't stop until they prove themselves. That's not a guarantee of loyalty. Zalthar turned to Kara, his golden eyes flashing with a deep understanding. We must control them before they control us. If we let them rise unchecked, they could become the galaxy's most dangerous force. But we also cannot destroy them now. Yet, there is something more. We need them, but on our terms. They will be tested. On the human ship, General Vasquez stood in front of the holographic map. The fleet had reached a distant sector near the alien border, and scanners showed the Zelvian ships were nearby, hidden just beyond the reach of human detection. But their presence was undeniable, and it was clear they were waiting. General Vasquez's orders had been to observe, but she had learned enough about the Zelvian tactics to know that waiting wasn't enough. Humanity was being pushed into a corner. "We need to act fast," she muttered under her breath. The Zelvians were preparing to move, and the alien alliance had yet to show their full hand. Meanwhile, Ethan, now one of humanity's most valuable strategists, sat in the war room with his team of engineers and tech experts. His mind raced as they discussed countermeasures for the alien Starcrushers and other alien weapons. Ethan was more than just a military officer. He was also a problem solver, and right now, the problem at hand wasn't just about defeating the alien fleets. It was about unlocking the mystery of the ancient alien weapon. "If we can reprogram the alien artifact we discovered earlier," Ethan said, his eyes focused on the data screen, "we might be able to turn their own weaponry against them. But we'll need the Zelvian technology to do that. It's the only way to neutralize the threat they pose." The team nodded, but the room was filled with tension. Reprogramming the artifact was no small task, and it was one of the most dangerous maneuvers they could attempt. The alien weapon was not just a piece of technology, it was an ancient relic, holding secrets and power far beyond human understanding. "I can't believe we're considering this," one of the engineers said. "That artifact could turn against us." Ethan, never one to shy away from a challenge, turned to face his team. "We don't have a choice. If we don't figure this out now, Earth is finished. We need to be smarter than they expect us to be." Back in the Alien Council, Zarish and his advisors had begun to unravel the next part of their plan. The colossal had always been the dominant species, but this newfound human ingenuity had begun to raise concerns. Zarish had seen the humans' resourcefulness firsthand. They were dangerous in their adaptability, and now he could sense the unease spreading through the ranks of the galaxy's elite. "There's more going on here than we realize," Zarish said, staring at the holographic display of Earth. "The humans have something we've never seen before, potential for growth and evolution. But they cannot be allowed to grow unchecked." Jorath, his strategist, stepped forward. "We have the power to contain them, Zarish, but we must act quickly before they become too powerful." Zarish nodded slowly. "We will contain them, but we must not allow them to rally support from the galaxy's other species. Their alliances must be torn apart." Back on Earth, General Vasquez's fleet moved into position near the Zelvian stronghold, ready to launch a surprise strike. General Moore and his team had spent weeks developing a strategy to break through the Zelvian defenses and gain access to their hidden weaponry. The Zelvian fleet, for all its power, had vulnerabilities. Humanity had learned their tactics, and now it was time to strike back. "We need to be swift, and we need to surprise them," Vasquez ordered, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Our best chance is to infiltrate their defenses before they realize what's happening. Move out." As humanity's counteroffensive began, the Zelvian mothership was completely unaware of the danger closing in. Their forces, still focused on securing their position in the galaxy, were unprepared for what the humans were about to do in the vastness of space. Humanity was about to prove once again that no matter how small they appeared to others, they could still find a way to change the course of destiny. The heart of the storm. Humanity's counterattack had been more successful than anyone anticipated. But as the Zelvian fleet scrambled to recover, General Aidan Moore knew the hardest part was yet to come. The Zelvian strongholder, hidden bastion of galactic power, was now within humanity's sights, and the alien leaders were frantically reorganizing their forces. The first battle had gone in humanity's favor, But that was only a small victory in a war that was spiraling towards something much larger. General Vasquez watched as the Zelvian motherships powered up their weapons, signaling the calculated retaliation that was sure to come. Human forces, though emboldened by their success, were still vastly outmatched in terms of technology and sheer power. Yet humanity had something more resolve. We've hit them hard, but they're not finished yet, Vasquez muttered to herself, observing the holographic display of the battlefield. We need to be smarter. We need to strike at their heart before they strike back. Meanwhile, aboard one of the human warships, Captain Leah Carter and Lieutenant Harper stood in front of the command panel, monitoring the real-time feed of the alien fleet's movements. The Zelvian ships were shifting, closing ranks, and it was clear the aliens were preparing for something big. They've reactivated their super shields, Captain Harper said, his voice tense. They're anticipating an all-out assault. Leah didn't flinch. Her mind was sharp, calculating. We've got no choice. We move in before they can regroup. We'll infiltrate their outer defenses and take out the Zelvian command ship. If we can strike at the head, the body will collapse. Harper nodded, his eyes narrowing. The risks are high, but it's our best shot. We're ready. Leah turned to her crew, eyes burning with determination. We've come too far to stop. Now. This is for Earth and every species that wants to see humanity stand tall. Prepare for a final push. General Moore stood at the center of the human command center, his gaze fixed on the monitors. The map of the galaxy shimmered in front of him, but his mind was focused entirely on the mission ahead. The Zelvian fleet was still recovering, and humanity had to capitalize on the momentum. We're in the final stretch. Get the phase cascade on standby, Aiden ordered. We need to be able to shift positions immediately. The Zelvian forces are adapting faster than we thought, and once they regroup, we can't risk being trapped. He paused, his eyes scanning the faces of the officers in the room. They think we're weak, unpredictable, but we're not anymore. On the Zelvian mothership, Zalthar watched the human forces with growing concern. His species, long accustomed to domination, was now faced with an enemy that had fought back and, against all odds, managed to surprise him. The humans had proven to be more than just a nuisance. They had become a genuine threat. They've pierced our outer defense grids, Joroth reported, his antennae twitching nervously. They've breached our secondary shields, Admiral. The human fleet is moving toward our command ship. Zalthar remained calm, but there was a sharpness to his eyes. Activate the countermeasures. We will not let them destroy the heart of our fleet. But something else was in the air, something Zalthar couldn't quite place. The humans were acting too precisely, their movements too calculated. This wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a war of wills. Send reinforcements to the command ship. Prepare for the final defense. If they break through, we'll have to abandon the stronghold. Let them know the Kylorians do not back down. The human fleet continued its advance, but they could feel the alien forces regrouping. Humanity had learned something valuable in this war, even though they lacked the technology to match the galaxy's greatest powers. They could still out them. The alien species had relied on their superior technology for too long, while humanity had relied on ingenuity and unpredictability. It was time to flip the script, and humanity was ready to do just that. As the human ships cut through the stars, General Moore was deep in thought. He knew that the Zelvian command ship was the key to this entire conflict. If they could disable it, they would cripple the Zelvian fleet and force them to retreat. His final command came as the battle escalated. Phase cascade is now. We shift the fleet to the Zelvian heart. As the human ships disappeared from the alien radar, slipping past the Zelvian defenses, the next phase of the battle began. The alien fleet, once unstoppable, was now in disarray. The human strike force had slipped through the cracks. Inside, the Zelvian mothership, Zarish stood, his golden eyes flashing with anger. He had underestimated the humans, but now was not the time to doubt. The phase cascade had given the humans an advantage, but that advantage would soon fade. The Kaltorians, though fiercely powerful, now found themselves engaged in a battle of guile, something that was foreign to them. Their technology was superior, but humanity's creativity was their trump card. Prepare the final defenses, Zarish said, his voice tight with fury. The humans have outsmarted us, but they will not outlast us. We will crush them once and for all. The final gambit. The human fleet hung in the void of space, cloaked by their phase cascade technology, now within striking distance of the Zelvian mothership. The battle had reached a tipping point. The Zelvian forces, while still formidable, were now reeling, unsure of their next move. General Aidan Moore stood at the center of the command deck, his mind racing. They had breached the alien defenses, but that was only half the battle. Now, they had to take down the heart of the beast. We have one shot at this, Aidan said, his voice low but filled with resolve. Once we breach the command ship, we disable their leadership. The rest will fall. The room was tense as the officers prepared for the final push. General Moore knew that the success of this mission would change humanity's future forever. If they failed, Earth and its allies would be crushed by the Zelvian forces. The Kylorians would finish what they had started, and humanity would remain marginalized, a footnote in galactic history. Meanwhile, aboard the Zelvian mothership, Zarish stood at the helm, his hands trembling ever so slightly as he watched the human ships advance. The humans had outmaneuvered them, but he had underestimated their resolve. The Zelvian fleet was beginning to break apart, but it wasn't over, not yet. Activate the core shields. Zarish's voice was steely, but the concern in his eyes was unmistakable. Deploy the final defense protocols. We will hold our ground here. As the Zelvian fleet started to brace for the human strike, a sudden thought crossed Zarish's mind. Had they been wrong about humanity? Could these humans truly change the balance of the galaxy? The question gnawed at him. Perhaps the Zelvian Empire had been complacent for too long. Perhaps humanity was the true wild card in this galactic game. But there was no turning back now. The Zelvian fleet was going to prove that they were the galaxy's masters, and no upstart species, no matter how resilient, could challenge their reign. Back on Earth, Captain Leah Carter and her team of elite pilots were preparing to launch their final assault on the Zelvian mothership. Their mission was clear: destroy the command core, disable the fleet's central control, and allow humanity to finally take its place in the galaxy. The pressure weighed heavily on their shoulders. As Captain Carter adjusted her controls, she exchanged a glance with Lieutenant Harper, who had become her most trusted partner in this battle. "Ready for this, Harper?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying a sense of determination. Harper gave a small smile, his eyes focused on the monitors. "We've come this far, Carter. There's no turning back now. Let's show them what humanity can do." The two ships launched into the void, their weapons primed, ready to strike. They were only moments away from engaging the Zelvian mothership, the largest and most dangerous target humanity had ever faced. On the alien ship, Zelthar had finished preparing his forces. The humans were about to strike, but he wasn't prepared to lose. The Zelvian Empire had faced countless wars, challenges, and uprisings, but this was different. The humans were unpredictable, unconventional, smart, and dangerous. We'll see just how resilient the humans really are. Zelthar whispered to himself, watching as the human fleet neared. The Zelvian fleet was still far more advanced, but now the humans had proven they could adapt, that they could find a way, initiate the final defense. We cannot allow them to breach our command center, Zelthar ordered, his voice cold and commanding. Back on the human fleet, the crew was ready. They had infiltrated the Zelvian defenses, disabled their shields, and now they were just a breath away from the most important mission of their lives. General Moore looked up from the tactical display. The time was now. All systems ready, Leah reported. We're locked on. Aiden's heart pounded in his chest, but his resolve was unshaken. We move in on their command center, disrupt their control. Humanity's final strike began. The human ships sped forward, maneuvering through debris and alien defenses. It wasn't just a military tactic, it was a message. They weren't going to just survive. They were going to take charge of their destiny. On the Zelvian mothership, Zarish stood at the helm, ready to witness the final battle. The human ships approached quickly, their weapons primed, their targeting systems locked on. They had breached the Zelvian shields, and now the real battle was about to begin. Could the Zelvian forces withstand the human onslaught? Or had the humans found a way to break the shackles of their inferiority and surpass the galaxy's most powerful species? As the human ships closed in on the Zelvian mothership, Zarish's eyes flashed with determination. It's time to finish this. Prepare to fire. The shattering strike, the moment of truth, had arrived. The human fleet was now face to face with the Zelvian mothership, the heart of their galactic empire. The massive alien ship loomed ahead, its gleaming exterior gleaming ominously in the depths of space. General Aiden Moore, standing at the helm of his ship, could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His palms were sweating, and his heart raced in anticipation for humanity. This was not just a final battle, it was everything. A win would prove that humanity could stand among the galaxy's strongest powers, but a loss would mean the end of Earth's legacy in the stars. Aiden's eyes focused on the Zelvian fleet's massive defense grid. Their armament was far superior to humanity's, and the Omega cannon that had once nearly destroyed Earth was still lying in wait, capable of turning the tide in an instant. All systems ready. General, Captain Leia Carter reported, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. We're in position to strike. Aiden took a deep breath, his fingers tight on the controls. We move now, he said firmly. We strike at the heart of the ship. No hesitation. On the Zelvian mothership, Zarish stood before the vast command center, watching the humans' movements. The incoming fleet had deployed their phase cascade technology once again, using it to hide their movements from the alien fleet's radar. But Zarish was prepared for this. Activate the secondary defense grid, Zarish ordered, his voice cold. They're trying to use their stealth against us. Let's see how they handle a direct assault. As the Zelvian shields powered up, the alien fleet shifted into defensive formation, positioning their weapons toward the human fleet's location. Zarish was still confident in his fleet's superiority, but there was a small seed of doubt growing in the back of his mind. The humans had proven too clever, too resourceful, for him to simply disregard. Bring up all artillery. Target there. Ship's weak points. Zarish's hand hovered over the command console, waiting for the humans to make their move. Back in the human command center, the tension was unbearable. Every officer on the bridge was silent, watching as their ships advanced toward the Zelvian stronghold. The minutes felt like hours, and every second seemed to stretch as if the entire universe was holding its breath. "We're closing in," Lieutenant Harper said quietly, his hands flying over the controls. "Once we hit their core, the battle will be over. We have to break their shield system before the Zelvian fleet hits us with everything they've got." Captain Carter nodded, adjusting her focus. "We'll hit them with everything we've got first. This is humanity's moment to show the galaxy what we're capable of." Suddenly, a massive shockwave hit the fleet. A blinding light illuminated the vast expanse of space, and the ships jerked violently as the Zelvian fleet fired the first salvo. The alien ships were relentless, their weapons pouring down on the human fleet with calculated precision. Aiden's heart skipped a beat as his ship rocked under the force of the alien barrage. The stealth tech was only partially effective. The Zelvian targeting systems were too advanced. "They're hitting us harder than we expected," Leah yelled over the comms. "Shields are holding, but they won't last much longer." Aiden Moore gritted his teeth. "Push forward, we're not stopping now." The human fleet surged forward, their weapons blasting into the enemy's defenses. Explosions lit up the alien ships as humanity fought back with everything they had. Meanwhile, inside the Zelvian mothership, Zarish watched the chaos unfold on his command screen. The human fleet was resilient, but there was still one final ace up his sleeve. "Prepare the final offensive," Jorath Zarish said, his voice tight with resolve. "Activate the Starcrusher artillery. The humans will learn they cannot face the Zelvian might without paying the price." Jorath's eyes flickered in realization. "Admiral, are you sure? The Starcrushers are still charging. If we fire too soon, we risk damaging the mothership itself." Zarish's eyes gleamed with determination. "We will not lose, Jorath. Not today. Prepare to fire." Back on Earth, General Vasquez was leading the final defensive charge, coordinating ground teams to help prepare the planet's last line of defense. She watched the real-time transmissions from the human fleet, her mind sharp and calculating. "If we can hold on long enough, the Zelvian ships will be unable to retreat," Vasquez said under her breath, tapping her fingers on the console. "The Starcrushers are their last weapon. If we destroy them, we win." Her face hardened. "We will not lose Earth to these invaders. We fight back until the end." Back in space, the final battle was reaching its climax. Aiden Moore, flying through the chaos, was determined to bring down the Zelvian mothership. His fingers danced over the ship's controls, dodging alien fire and unleashing humanity's counteroffensive. The Starcrushers began to glow with deadly energy as Zarish's command to fire was given. "General, we need to destroy their core now," Leah yelled over the comms. "We can't hold them off for much longer." Aiden knew this was it. This was their final chance. All ships, Aiden commanded. Human ships poured everything they had into the Zelvian mothership's exposed weak points. The Starcrushers fired, but humanity's weapons hit their mark directly into the Zelvian mothership's heart, in the command center of the Zelvian mothership. Zarish's eyes widened as the ship began to shake violently. The Starcrushers had fired, but the mothership's core was failing. The explosions were too powerful for the ship's power systems to handle. As the Zelvian Empire's flagship began to fall apart, Zarish understood humanity had done the impossible.